Megawatts on your mind from Lighthief. We build it, we run it, we know what works, real projects, real returns. The renewable energy podcast that doesn't waste your time. Let's go.
Poland, Romania, Italy, and Cyprus. Now I can already hear some of you thinking, Poland? Really? The country that still gets 60% of its electricity from coal? Or Romania? Isn't that the Wild West of European solar? Or perhaps Italy? With its Byzantine bureaucracy? And Cyprus? Isn't that market absolutely tiny? Valid questions, all of them. And yes, each of these markets has significant challenges. If they were easy, everyone would already be there making fortunes. But that's rather the point. The markets that look difficult on paper are often where the real opportunities lie, provided you understand the complications and know how to navigate them. We operate in all four of these countries. We've built projects, we maintain installations, we've made mistakes, learned from them, and figured out what actually works in each market. This isn't theoretical analysis from consultants who've never set foot on a construction site. This is practical knowledge from people who've dealt with Romanian grid connection processes, Italian permitting bureaucracy, Polish regulatory changes, and Cypriot land registry complications. Today we'll walk through each market systematically. What's the current state? What are the opportunities? What support mechanisms exist? What are the specific challenges that make each market difficult? And most importantly, how do you actually make money despite these challenges? We'll be honest about what can go wrong, because plenty can go wrong in each of these markets. But we'll also explain why we believe these four countries offer better risk-adjusted returns than some of the supposedly easier markets like Spain or Germany, which are now saturated and hyper-competitive. This episode is for developers considering where to deploy capital, for investors evaluating project opportunities, for O&M providers thinking about geographic expansion, and for anyone in the solar industry who wants to understand the real dynamics of European markets beyond the headline numbers. Shall we start? And perhaps pour ourselves something strong, because some of these markets require a certain level of fortitude. Let's begin with Poland. On the surface, this seems like an odd choice for a solar market worth attention. Poland is coal country, historically, politically, culturally. 60% of electricity still comes from coal. The government has been slow to embrace renewable energy compared to Western European neighbors. The irradiation isn't spectacular. We're talking roughly 1,000 to 1,100 kilowatt hours per square meter annually, compared to 1,800 in southern Spain. And yet Poland has quietly become one of the largest solar markets in Europe. Over 18 gigawatts installed as of 2024. That's more than the UK, more than France, behind only Germany and Spain in absolute capacity. How did this happen, and why does it represent opportunity? The transformation started around 2019 to 2020, with surprisingly good auction results and regulatory support. The Polish government, despite its coal legacy, recognized that renewable energy is economically inevitable. Solar had become cheap enough to compete without massive subsidies. And critically, Polish electricity prices are relatively high. Industrial customers pay among the highest rates in Central Europe, making solar economics attractive even without generous feed-in tariffs. Current market dynamics are interesting. The auction system contract for difference mechanism provides long-term price stability for projects. Auctions happen regularly, typically twice per year, with reasonable capacity allocations. Winning prices have settled around 200 to 250 zloty per megawatt hour, roughly 45 to 55 euros, which isn't spectacular, but provides bankable revenue certainty for 15 years. But here's where it gets interesting. The corporate PPA market is developing rapidly. Large Polish companies, manufacturing, retail, logistics, are increasingly seeking renewable energy for both cost reasons and ESG commitments. Corporate PPA prices can be more attractive than auction prices, and you avoid the auction competition entirely. Grid connection, historically a nightmare in Poland, has improved substantially. PSE, the transmission system operator, has reformed connection procedures, reduced timeline uncertainty, and improved transparency. It's still not fast by German standards, but it's manageable. Connection times of 12 to 24 months are typical for utility-scale projects, which is acceptable. Permitting is relatively straightforward compared to Western Europe. Environmental impact assessments are required, but not prohibitively complex. Local community opposition is generally lower than in, say, Germany or the UK. Poles are pragmatic about infrastructure development. Land lease costs are reasonable. Agricultural land in suitable locations can be leased for 2,000 to 4,000 zloty per hectare annually, about 450 to 900 euros. The supply chain has matured. Domestic EPC contractors have gained experience, reducing reliance on foreign contractors. Module supply from Asia is straightforward. Poland has good logistics connections. Labor costs are significantly lower than Western Europe, while skill levels are improving. From an O&M perspective, Poland is interesting. The installed base is young. Most capacity was added in the last 5 years, so O&M requirements are currently modest. But as these assets age, professional O&M demand will grow substantially. Currently, many farms have inadequate O&M, which creates opportunity for professional providers. Now the challenges. First, regulatory stability. Poland has a history of changing renewable energy support schemes without much warning. Retroactive changes have happened. This creates political risk that must be priced into investment decisions. Second, currency risk. If you're financing in euros but revenue is in zloty, currency fluctuations matter. The zloty has been relatively stable recently, but has experienced volatility historically. Hedging is advisable but adds cost. Third, winter performance. Poland has short winter days and significant snow. A farm might produce only 5% of its annual generation in December and January. This creates revenue concentration in summer months, which affects cash flow management. Fourth, the market is becoming competitive. The easy money phase is ending. Auction prices are declining. Land prices in good locations are rising. Experienced developers have established positions. New entrants face stiffer competition. But despite these challenges, Poland remains attractive for several reasons. The market is large and growing. Electricity demand is increasing as the economy develops and electrification proceeds. The phase-out of coal creates both necessity and opportunity for renewable capacity. Polish companies increasingly understand that energy transition is inevitable and are becoming more sophisticated buyers. Our practical experience: we've built several projects in Poland, primarily in the south and east, where irradiation is slightly better and land is more available. Performance has met expectations. Grid integration has been smooth. The main challenge has been managing regulatory changes. You need local expertise to track policy developments and adapt quickly. Bottom line on Poland: not the highest returns in Europe, but solid, relatively predictable returns with manageable risks. Good for developers seeking scale and patient capital. The O&M market opportunity is particularly interesting as the installed base matures. Now let's talk about Romania. If Poland is the pragmatic, steadily developing market, Romania is the volatile, occasionally chaotic, but potentially very lucrative opportunity. This is not a market for the faint-hearted or for those who insist on Western European levels of regulatory clarity and infrastructure reliability. Romania had an early solar boom around 2011 to 2013, with extremely generous green certificates, essentially tradable renewable energy credits, providing substantial revenue on top of electricity sales. Developers made extraordinary returns. Then the government, alarmed by the cost, retroactively changed the support scheme, cutting green certificate values and deferring payments. Many investors lost significant money. The market crashed and remained dormant for years, but Romania is back for several reasons. First, the old green certificate scheme has mostly wound down. New projects operate under different mechanisms, competitive auctions or contract for difference schemes, which are more sustainable. Second, Romanian electricity prices are relatively high and volatile, making solar economics attractive even without massive subsidies. Third, Romania has excellent solar resource. Irradiation in the south approaches 1,400 to 1,500 kilowatt hours per square meter annually, significantly better than Poland or Germany. Current market size is modest but growing rapidly. Roughly 3 to 4 gigawatts installed, but the pipeline is substantial, perhaps 10 to 15 gigawatts in various stages of development. The Romanian government has set ambitious renewable targets driven by EU commitments. Funding from EU recovery funds is supporting grid modernization and renewable deployment. Grid connection is the wild card in Romania. The grid operator, Transelectrica, has been historically difficult to work with. Connection timelines are unpredictable. Requirements change. Bureaucracy is substantial. However, recent reforms and EU pressure are improving things. If you have patience and good local partners, grid connection is achievable. Permitting varies dramatically by region. Some local authorities are supportive and efficient. Others are slow, opaque, or occasionally corrupt. Environmental permitting can be complex, particularly near protected areas. Archaeological surveys are required in many locations. Romania has substantial archaeological heritage, and discovering something during construction can delay or halt a project. Land availability is generally good. Romania has extensive agricultural land, much of it suitable for solar. Lease prices are quite low by European standards. You might pay 300 to 600 euros per hectare annually in many locations. Land ownership can be complicated. Privatization after communism left some properties with unclear title or multiple small owners. But with proper due diligence, this is manageable. The supply chain is developing but less mature than Poland. Fewer experienced domestic EPC contractors exist. Many developers bring in foreign contractors, which adds cost and complexity. Module supply is straightforward. Romania has port access and good logistics. Labor is available and relatively inexpensive, though finding highly skilled technical personnel can be challenging. From an O&M perspective, Romania is underdeveloped. Many existing farms have poor or no professional O&M. Underperformance is common. This creates significant opportunity for professional O&M providers, but also means you're often dealing with assets that have been neglected and require remediation. Now, the challenges, and they're substantial. First, regulatory unpredictability. Romania's history of retroactive subsidy changes creates political risk. While current mechanisms seem more stable, investors remain wary. This affects financing costs and required returns. Second, grid infrastructure quality. The Romanian grid has reliability issues. Outages are more common than in Western Europe. Voltage quality can be poor. This affects both project performance and the value of grid connection. Some locations have excellent grid access, others are problematic. Third, corruption and bureaucracy. Romania ranks poorly on corruption indices by European standards. Navigating permitting, grid connections, and local administration sometimes requires, let's diplomatically say, relationship management. This isn't unique to Romania, but it's more prevalent than in, say, the Netherlands. Fourth, financing is more difficult and expensive. International banks are cautious about Romania given the history and perceived risks. Local financing is available but at higher interest rates than Western Europe. This affects project returns substantially. Fifth, currency risk is significant. The Romanian leu is more volatile than the Polish zloty. Projects generating revenue in lei while servicing euro debt face real currency exposure. Hedging is essential but expensive. But here's why Romania is still interesting. The returns can be excellent if you navigate the challenges successfully. Electricity prices are high, solar resources good, land and labor are cheap. Competition is lower than in mature markets. For developers with emerging market experience and risk appetite, Romania offers opportunities that simply don't exist in Germany or Spain anymore. Corporate PPA market is developing. Large Romanian companies and international firms with Romanian operations are seeking renewable energy. PPA prices can be attractive, and you avoid the auction competition and regulatory uncertainty. Our practical experience, we've developed projects in southern Romania, primarily in the Bucharest region and further south. The solar resource has been excellent. Performance exceeds typical Central European sites. Grid issues have occurred but were manageable. The key learning, you absolutely must have strong local partners who understand how things actually work in Romania. Trying to operate purely from abroad is asking for trouble. We've also taken over O&M for several Romanian farms that were previously poorly maintained. Performance improvements of 15 to 20% aren't unusual after implementing proper O&M programs. This tells you both how much opportunity exists and how poorly many assets are currently managed. Bottom line on Romania, higher risk than Poland, but also higher potential returns. Not suitable for conservative institutional investors. well-suited for experienced developers, comfortable with emerging market dynamics. The O&M opportunity is substantial given the current state of many assets. If you get it right, returns can be very attractive. If you get it wrong, you'll join the list of people who lost money in Romania's previous solar boom. Right, let's discuss Italy. The land of spectacular solar resource, sophisticated power market, enormous potential, and quite possibly the most Byzantine bureaucracy in Western Europe. Italy is where good projects go to age slowly while navigating permits that require more signatures than the Treaty of Versailles. Italy was an early solar leader. The Conto Energia feed-in tariff program from 2005 to 2013 drove massive deployment. Italy reached over 20 gigawatts installed by 2013, making it one of Europe's largest markets. Those early projects received extraordinarily generous tariffs. Developers and investors made spectacular returns. Then the program ended, and the market largely froze for years. Italy is now in a second wave. Current installed capacity approaches 30 gigawatts, but most of that is legacy Conto Energia projects. New deployment has been modest until recently, but this is changing rapidly. Italy has ambitious renewable targets, 70% renewable electricity by 2030. Current renewable share is around 40%, so substantial new capacity is needed. The solar resource is excellent. Southern Italy, Sicily, Puglia, Calabria has a radiation approaching 1,800 to 1,900 kilowatt hours per square meter. Even northern Italy exceeds 1,400. This is Germany-level installed capacity with Spanish-level sunshine. The production advantage over Central European sites is substantial. Electricity prices in Italy are among the highest in Europe. Industrial power prices frequently exceed 200 euros per megawatt hour. This makes solar economics attractive even without subsidies. The merchant market for new projects can work financially, which is rare in Europe. Current support mechanisms include competitive auctions for long-term tariffs and various incentives for agricultural solar, agrivoltaics, where farming continues under or around panels. The Italian government is particularly interested in agrivoltaics because it addresses land use concerns while supporting both energy and agricultural sectors. Corporate PPA market is developing but slowly. Italian companies are becoming more sophisticated about renewable energy procurement, but the market isn't as mature as UK or Germany. This will improve. Grid connection in Italy is complicated. Terna, the transmission operator, and eDistribuzione, the main distribution operator, have clear procedures on paper. In practice, timelines are long and unpredictable. 2 to 4 years for grid connection isn't unusual. Priority is given to projects with all permits completed, which creates a chicken and egg problem because permits take years to obtain. And permits. Oh, the permits. Italy has multiple layers of government: national, regional, provincial, municipal, each with authority over different aspects of project permitting. Environmental permits require multiple agencies. Archaeological assessment is mandatory. This is Italy. You're almost guaranteed to find something Roman or older if you dig. Landscape protection is strict. Italy takes heritage preservation seriously, often at the expense of infrastructure development. Navigating Italian permitting requires local expertise, patience, and usually several years. Some regions are relatively efficient: Lombardy, Emilia-Romagna. Others are nightmarish. Sicily is notorious for slow, unpredictable permitting. Horror stories abound of projects that took 5, 6, 7 years from land acquisition to construction. Land availability varies by region. Northern Italy has expensive agricultural land with competing uses. Southern Italy has more available land at reasonable prices, but permitting can be worse. Land lease costs range from 3,000 to 8,000 euros per hectare annually, depending on location and quality. The supply chain is mature. Italy has experienced EPC contractors, good logistics infrastructure, access to European and Asian module suppliers. Labor is available, though relatively expensive by European standards. Quality of work is generally good. The O&M market is interesting. The large base of legacy Conto Energia projects is aging. Many of these have excellent economics, high guaranteed tariffs, making proper O&M very valuable. Professional O&M can significantly improve performance of older, poorly maintained assets. The newer project O&M market is smaller but growing. Now the challenges, and they're substantial. First, permitting timelines and uncertainty. This is the single biggest obstacle to Italian solar development. You need deep pockets and patience. Many projects fail to achieve permits at all after years of effort. Second, grid congestion. Some of the best solar resource areas, southern Sicily, Puglia, have grid congestion. New connections are difficult or require expensive grid reinforcement. Northern Italy has better grid but worse solar resource. Third, regulatory complexity. Italy has layers of regulations, frequent changes, and occasional retroactive modifications. Understanding the legal framework requires specialized Italian energy lawyers. Operating without this expertise is risky. Fourth, political dynamics. Italy has had frequent government changes, each potentially bringing different priorities for renewable energy. Regional politics matter enormously. What's supported in one region may be opposed in another. Fifth, organized crime. In some southern regions, not all, but some, mafia presence creates complications. Land deals, permitting, construction contracts, all can be affected. This requires extremely careful due diligence and often limits where developers are willing to work. But here's why Italy remains attractive despite these enormous obstacles. The economics can be excellent if you successfully navigate the bureaucracy. High electricity prices, excellent solar resource, mature market with sophisticated off-takers and financing. Projects that actually get built and connected perform well and generate strong returns. The legacy Conto Energia projects are particularly interesting from an acquisition and O&M perspective. These have guaranteed high tariffs for 20 years from commissioning. Many are 10 to 15 years old, so substantial tariff life remains. Professional O&M can extract significant additional value. Some of these assets are being sold by original developers who lack O&M expertise. Opportunity exists for sophisticated buyers. Agrivoltaics is a genuinely interesting development in Italy. Combining solar generation with continued agricultural use addresses both the land use concerns and provides additional revenue streams. The Italian government is providing specific support for agrivoltaics. Technology is maturing. Higher panels allowing tractor access, optimized spacing allowing sufficient light for crops. This could unlock substantial development that would otherwise face local opposition. Our practical experience: we operate several O&M contracts in Italy, including both legacy Conto Energia projects and newer installations. The legacy projects are financially very attractive. The tariffs are excellent, and improving performance through professional O&M has immediate, substantial value. The newer projects are more challenging economically, but still viable. We've learned that local relationships are absolutely critical in Italy. You cannot develop projects from abroad. You need Italian partners who understand the regional dynamics, know the permitting authorities, have relationships with landowners and communities. Trying to do Italy without deep local presence is a recipe for frustration. We've also learned that patience is essential. Italian timelines are Italian timelines. Fighting this reality is pointless. You need to factor multi-year development into your planning and financing. Bottom line on Italy: potentially excellent returns if you successfully navigate the bureaucracy and accept long development timelines. The solar resource and electricity prices are excellent. The legacy asset O&M opportunity is substantial, but this is not a market for developers who need quick execution or lack the resources for multi-year development cycles. Italy rewards patience, local expertise, and persistence. If you have these, the returns justify the effort. Finally, let's discuss Cyprus, the smallest of our 4 markets by far. The entire country's electricity consumption is roughly 5,000 gigawatt-hours annually, less than a medium-sized Polish city. And yet Cyprus represents interesting opportunity for specific reasons. Cyprus has extraordinary solar resource, over 1,900 kilowatt-hours per square meter in many locations. This is among the best in Europe, comparable to southern Spain or Sicily. The sunshine is reliable, the skies are clear, and production is excellent year-round. Even winter months produce reasonably well. Current installed solar capacity is modest, roughly 300 megawatts as of 2024. This sounds tiny, but it represents over 15% of Cyprus's peak demand. Solar penetration is actually quite high. The island has aggressive renewable targets: 40% by 2030, driven by EU commitments and by energy security concerns after the Turkish invasion and ongoing division of the island. Electricity prices in Cyprus are among the highest in Europe. The island has no fossil fuel resources and historically relied on imported oil for most electricity generation. Power costs have been extraordinary. Residential customers pay over 0.25 euros per kilowatt hour, commercial and industrial even more. This makes solar economics extremely attractive. The market dynamics are interesting. Until recently, net metering allowed residential and small commercial installations to offset consumption at retail rates. This created a rooftop solar boom. Cyprus has among the highest per capita residential solar installation rates in Europe. Nearly every house that can install panels has done so. Utility-scale development has been slower due to grid constraints. Cyprus has a small, isolated grid. No interconnections to neighboring countries, though a cable to Greece is in development. Grid stability is a concern with high renewable penetration. The Cyprus Transmission System Operator, TSOC, has been cautious about adding capacity that could destabilize the grid. But this is changing. Energy storage is being deployed to manage grid stability. The undersea cable to Greece, the Euro-Asia Interconnector, should connect Cyprus to the European grid by 2028 to 2029, dramatically improving grid stability and allowing higher renewable penetration. This creates substantial opportunity for new solar development. Grid connection procedures in Cyprus are relatively straightforward compared to Romania or Italy. TSOC has clear processes, reasonable timelines, typically 12 to 18 months for utility-scale projects. The challenge isn't procedure but capacity. TSOC limits new connections based on grid stability requirements. Permitting is relatively efficient by European standards. Environmental assessments are required but not prohibitively complex. Planning permission involves municipal and district authorities, but is generally predictable. Archaeological issues are rare compared to Italy. Timeline from permitting start to approval is typically 12 to 24 months. Land availability is limited. Cyprus is a small island with competing uses. Tourism, agriculture, military installations, British sovereign base areas. Suitable land near grid connection points is constrained. Land costs are relatively high, 5,000 to 10,000 euros per hectare. Annually isn't unusual in good locations. The supply chain is limited due to market size. There are few domestic EPC contractors with utility-scale experience. Most projects involve European or international contractors, though local labor is used. Module supply requires shipping to the island, which adds cost and logistics complexity. The O&M market is immature. Many existing installations have poor or no professional O&M. This creates opportunity for providers establishing presence on the island. The small market size means you need to aggregate multiple assets to justify operational infrastructure. Now the challenges. First, market size. Cyprus is tiny. You cannot build a business purely on Cyprus. It needs to be part of a regional strategy. We include it with our operations in Italy and Eastern Mediterranean region. Second, grid limitations. Until the interconnector to Greece is operational, grid absorption capacity is limited. TSOC carefully manages new connections. Priority is given to projects with storage or those demonstrating grid support capabilities. Third, land constraints and costs. Finding suitable sites is challenging. Competition for land is high. Costs are elevated relative to project revenues. Fourth, financing. Cypriot banks are small and have limited appetite for project finance. International financing is possible but requires educating lenders about the Cyprus market. After the 2013 banking crisis, Cyprus carries some perception of financial risk, though this has largely been resolved. Fifth, political risk from the ongoing Turkish occupation and division of the island. The Republic of Cyprus controls the south. The Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus controls the north. This creates geopolitical complexity, though for practical solar development purposes, the impact is limited. But here's why Cyprus is interesting. The economics are excellent. High electricity prices, outstanding solar resource, improving grid with the interconnector coming. The island needs substantial new generation capacity as it phases out oil-fired plants. Solar is the obvious solution. Behind-the-meter commercial and industrial solar is particularly attractive. Large consumers, hotels, manufacturing, data centers, pay extremely high electricity rates, and are eager to reduce costs. Solar with storage can provide very attractive returns for self-consumption projects. The corporate PPA market is developing. International companies with Cyprus operations, particularly tech companies attracted by favorable tax treatment, are interested in renewable energy for ESG reasons. PPA opportunities exist for developers who can navigate the small market. Our practical experience, we've developed and now maintain several installations in Cyprus, ranging from commercial rooftop to small utility-scale ground mount. Performance has been excellent. The solar resource is as good as advertised. Grid integration has been smooth when working cooperatively with TSOC. The key learning: Cyprus requires local presence and relationships. It's a small community where everyone knows everyone. Reputation matters enormously. Operating with integrity and delivering on commitments opens doors. We've found that combining solar with storage is often essential in Cyprus. TSOC strongly prefers solar plus storage projects because they help rather than harm grid stability. The economics work, high electricity prices justify battery costs. We've also found that the O&M opportunity is substantial. Many existing assets are underperforming. Professional O&M services are in short supply. Establishing reputation as a reliable O&M provider creates competitive advantage. Bottom line on Cyprus: not a standalone market due to size, but attractive as part of a regional strategy. Excellent solar resource and high electricity prices create good economics. Grid improvement with the Greek interconnector will open substantial opportunity, suitable for developers with a Mediterranean regional presence. The market is too small for large players, but potentially very attractive for mid-sized developers who can establish local presence and relationships. Right? We've walked through all four markets in detail. Now let's step back and compare them strategically. What are the common threads? How do they differ? Which market suits which type of developer or investor? First, common themes across all four markets. They all have fundamentals that work. Either good solar resource, high electricity prices, or preferably both. Poland has moderate resource but decent prices. Romania has good resource and high prices. Italy and Cyprus have excellent resource and very high prices. The basic economics support solar deployment. They all have regulatory support mechanisms, though varying in stability and generosity. None of these are subsidy-free merchant markets, but none require the spectacular feed-in tariffs of early 2010s either. The support is sufficient but not excessive. They all have challenges that deter less sophisticated or risk-averse developers. This is actually the opportunity. Markets without challenges are saturated and hyper-competitive. The complications create barriers to entry that protect returns for those who can navigate them. They all have improving but imperfect infrastructure: grid, supply chain, financing. This requires flexibility and problem-solving ability. Developers expecting German-level infrastructure will be disappointed. Now the differences. Risk profile. Poland is lowest risk of the four. Stable country, EU member, developed economy, reasonable regulatory framework. Cyprus is also relatively low risk, despite small size. Italy is medium risk. Regulatory complexity and bureaucracy more than fundamental instability. Romania is highest risk. Regulatory unpredictability, infrastructure quality, corruption concerns. Development timeline. Poland is fastest. 18 to 24 months from site selection to commissioning is achievable. Cyprus is similar if you have grid capacity allocation. Romania is 2 to 3 years typically. Italy is 3 to 5 years or longer. Market maturity. Italy is most mature, established market with long history. Poland is developing rapidly and maturing. Cyprus is small but relatively sophisticated. Romania is least mature with significant development uncertainty. Scale opportunity. Poland is largest with substantial growth potential. Italy is large but constrained by permitting. Romania has good growth potential if risk appetite exists. Cyprus is small and will remain so. Competition level. Italy and Poland have increasing competition from experienced developers. Romania has moderate competition focused on larger players. Cyprus has limited competition due to market size. Strategic fit for different players. Large institutional investors with conservative risk appetite. Poland is the obvious choice. Decent returns, manageable risks, scale opportunity. Italy could work for patient capital willing to accept development risk for better long-term returns. Experienced emerging market developers. Romania is attractive. Higher returns compensate for higher risks. Requires emerging market expertise and risk management capabilities. Mid-sized developers seeking regional presence. Cyprus makes sense as part of Mediterranean strategy. Too small standalone but attractive combined with other markets. Developers with Italian connections and patience. Italy offers excellent returns if you can navigate bureaucracy. Local presence and relationships are essential. O and M providers. All four markets have opportunities. Poland has large installed base needing professional O, and M Italy has aging legacy assets requiring specialized maintenance. Romania has underperforming assets needing remediation. Cyprus has underserved market with premium pricing potential. Our strategic approach at Lighthief, we operate in all four markets because they complement each other. Poland provides scale and stability. Italy provides high-value legacy asset O, and M Romania provides high-return development opportunity. Cyprus provides strategic Mediterranean presence. Diversification across markets reduces concentrated risk while capturing opportunities in each. Currency strategy matters. Poland and Romania have local currencies with some volatility. Natural hedges help. Operating costs in local currency partially offset revenue currency exposure. Italy and Cyprus use euro, eliminating currency risk for euro-based developers. So we've explored 4 European solar markets that we believe still offer attractive opportunities despite significant challenges. Poland, Romania, Italy, and Cyprus, each with distinct characteristics, different risk profiles, varying development complexity. The key takeaways. Good opportunities still exist in European solar, but they require more sophistication than in the early boom years. The easy markets are saturated. The remaining opportunities have complications: regulatory, infrastructural, bureaucratic. Success requires understanding these complications and knowing how to navigate them. Market selection should match your capabilities and risk appetite. Conservative investors should favor Poland. Experienced emerging market developers can capture higher returns in Romania. Patient developers with local relationships can succeed in Italy. Regional players can find attractive niches in smaller markets like Cyprus. Local presence and relationships are critical in all 4 markets, but especially in Italy, Romania, and Cyprus. You cannot successfully develop or operate from a distance. You need people on the ground who understand local dynamics. Regulatory and political risk must be carefully assessed and priced. Poland and Italy have lower political risk, but bureaucratic complexity. Romania has higher political risk but potentially higher returns. Cyprus has geopolitical peculiarities but is operationally stable. O and M opportunity exists in all 4 markets, as installed base matures. Professional O and M services are undersupplied in each market, creating competitive advantage for providers who invest in quality operations. Diversification across markets reduces risk while capturing opportunities. No single market is perfect. Each has cycles, regulatory changes, competitive dynamics. Operating in multiple markets provides stability. The European solar market is entering a new phase. The spectacular returns of early feed-in tariff programs are gone. But reasonable, risk-adjusted returns still exist for sophisticated developers and operators who know where to look and how to execute. These 4 markets, Poland, Romania, Italy, Cyprus, represent what we consider the best remaining opportunities in Europe. Not because they are easy, but because the combination of fundamentals, support mechanisms, and market dynamics creates attractive economics for those willing to navigate the complications. In future episodes, we'll dive deeper into specific aspects of developing and operating in different European markets.